AIRBUS opens a new multi-million-dollar campus here in Singapore, committing to its status as a regional hub.
After a 2-year freeze, Grab is now free to change its pricing policies and driver commission rates.
A disciplinary tribunal has found Suet Fern guilty of misconduct over handling of the last will of her late father-in-law Lee Kuan Yew.
Welcome to The Big Story, coming to you live from the Straits Times newsroom. I'm Olivia Quay.
I'm Haryanto Diman. You can subscribe to the Straits Times channel so you never miss a single episode.
Well, news just in. AIRBUS has officially opened its new $38 million campus in Seletar Aerospace Park nearly 9 months after it was scheduled to open.
Speaking at the inauguration ceremony, Trade and Industry Minister Chan Chun Sing said AIRBUS's investment in this integrated campus is a clear demonstration of its commitment to Singapore.
Our partnership is about continuously breaking new grounds to prepare for aviation in a COVID world and for aviation in a post-COVID world. And that is what makes it so exciting. Going forward, it will go beyond a defensive move to sustain capabilities and capacities, but we will spend our effort to pivot to new areas of growth together with like-minded partners like AIRBUS.
A 3-story office building will serve as the company's regional hub for its involvement in commercial aircraft and defense businesses.
There will also be a new regional operation for its digital service platform, Skywise. The campus will also be home to its second Asia branch of a global leadership university that provides training for its employees.
4 new COVID-19 cases were confirmed today, all of whom were imported and were placed on stay-home notices on arrival in Singapore.
Today is the 10th day in a row that there were no new community cases, and from workers' dormitories. Now more details will be released tonight.
Other local headlines: restrictions on Grab's ride-hailing service have been lifted, allowing the company to change its pricing policies and driver commission rates after a 2-year freeze. Grab said it's committed to maintaining its current pricing structure and policies for at least the next 6 months, given the COVID-19 situation. But a new platform fee for its transport services will be rolled out later.
Senior lawyer Suet Fern has been suspended for 15 months over handling of her late father-in-law Lee Kuan Yew's last will. The court of 3 judges found Mrs. Lee guilty of misconduct unbefitting an advocate and solicitor for preparing and executing the will from which her husband Lee Hsien Yang stood to gain. In a statement on Mr. Lee's Facebook page, she said she disagreed with the decision, adding there was no basis for the case to have even been initiated.
Nelson Low, co-founder of Novena Global Healthcare Group, which is under police probe, has left Singapore. That's according to his cousin and former business partner, Terence Low. In a statement today, Terence Low said, quote, "I feel deeply betrayed by Nelson, who has left Singapore and appears to have no intention to sort out this terrible mess we are left with." If you recall, the Low cousins came under fire in August for questionable marketing material, including doctored images of former US President Barack Obama.
Close to 50 established homegrown lifestyle brands have been officially awarded a national brand mark called Made with Passion. They include drinks maker Yo's and fashion label Charles & Keith. The Singapore Brand Office and Singapore Tourism Board said the move aims to promote consumer awareness and appreciation for Singapore brands. And to encourage customers to buy these products, they will be featured on online marketplaces and upcoming pop-ups.
Even as the world inches closer to finding viable COVID-19 vaccines like those from Pfizer and Moderna, it will take several years to recover from the pandemic, and the world will not be what we know it to be in the new normal.
This was stressed by Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong yesterday during a session on the future of global growth at a virtual event associated with the APEC grouping.
Well, PM Lee also spoke on the government's support for jobs and businesses to tie through this crisis and urged employers, regardless of what their plans are, to take care of their workers, citing them as stakeholders and an important resource.
We're happy to have NTUC's Assistant Secretary General Patrick Tay to share more. Hi Patrick. Patrick, so PM Lee said yesterday that employers to take care of their workers. His exact words, do not just make a short, quick decision. Retrain them if possible, redeploy them if possible. What's your advice for employers and employees in this difficult time, and how can they create a more robust symbiotic working relationship, especially when government assistance ends?
I think it's important for employers and businesses to realize that it's a difficult period and also a sensitive period, particularly if the company or business is not doing well. I think the key is to be able to communicate this to the workers. I think it's very important. Communication, not just communication, but open, frank, honest communication. Communication of the outlook for the company, for the business, moving ahead. At the same time, also communicating with workers so that they are able to empathize the needs of workers and the various challenges that they face. Because now, besides COVID-19, we are also facing remote working, work from home, and other arrangements which will have exacting challenges on workers. So important, besides retraining, redeployment, to be sensitive, to do things fairly, responsibly, as well as sensitively, as is a difficult period of time.
What about on the employee side, Patrick? What can they do, to contribute to a more robust working relationship?
Yes, I think besides employers, employees and workers do play an important role. We know there's some downtime in some industries. We also know it's a time where we have to observe a lot of the safe distance and safe management measures. So I think important for workers and employees, particularly in the labour movement, we are working very closely with our tripartite partners, including our employers, to roll out some of these measures, and of course to make sure that we looking after the interests and welfare of workers. And particularly during this period, even prior to COVID-19, we had digital disruption. We were looking at industry transformation, and now with COVID-19 pandemic and all the work from home arrangements, and the entire pace of digitalization is accelerated. So it's important for workers at this point of time to look at where areas where they can reskill, upgrade, and upskill themselves, so that when the economy picks up, at the same time also as their jobs are transformed, they can segue nicely to all these new openings, as well as bigger roles and new roles.
Right. Well, on a separate topic, it was also reported yesterday that there was a significant spike in wrongful dismissal claims in the second quarter of this year, with 436 such claims lodged between April and June. So, Patrick, what are some of the most common examples of employees' complaints of being wrongfully dismissed?
The issue comes up when some of these contractual terminations are not carried out properly, i.e. it's not properly communicated. And of course, they may not have abide by some of the tripartite advisories, guidelines, including terms of the employment contract, or even in unionized companies and unionized environment, the collective agreements. So that's where the issues of wrongful dismissal might come up. For example, an employer, due to a business downturn, removes or contractually terminates an employee. And this employee, after leaving the job, thinking that it was contractual termination, then discovers that actually that position which he or she was terminated from is redundant, i.e. there wasn't a replacement, and it's actually more of a retrenchment than actually a contractual termination of sorts. So in that sense, the entire tripartite advisory on managing excess manpower and responsible retrenchments, and of course the best practices in this area of layoffs will set in and come in. And therefore, this may be a situation of a disguised retrenchment, for example.
Patrick, what recourse then can employees who feel they've been wrongly dismissed seek?
Yes. For wrongful dismissals, depending on whether you're a union member or in a unionized environment, vis-a-vis a non-union member and a non-unionized environment, you have various recourses. In traditional unionized and union member environments, we have a recourse through the Industrial Relations Act, where we can file for wrongful dismissal action through the Ministry of Manpower. So if you have a problem and you are a union member in a unionized environment, please see your union leader, come to NTUC or seek your union's assistance. However, if you are not a union member or in a non-unionized environment, there's a tripartite alliance for disputes management. And pursuant to the changes to the Employment Act last year, the tripartite alliance for disputes management, TADAM for short, is able to hear issues regarding wrongful dismissal. So you can actually file a grievance with them so that they can hear your complaint.
Right. Well, Patrick, in the first half of this year, the Tripartite Alliance for Fair and Progressive Employment Practices investigated 260 cases of discriminatory hiring practices. So in cases like that, what help and assistance is available for those affected?
Yes, for those who face issues of discriminatory practices or have encountered them, whether it's hiring, recruitment, or even in the carrying out retrenchments, there's the Tripartite Alliance for Fair and Progressive Employment Practices, TAFEP for short. So they have a website, they have contact details, hotline as well, and emails. If you are affected or you have found yourself being a victim of this, you can actually file a grievance or complaint to them.
Right, thank you so much for making time for us, Patrick. We've been speaking to Patrick Tay, who's the Assistant Secretary General for NTUC.
Slightly more than a month until 2020 is over. It's certainly been a year of disruptions, restrictions.
Yeah, absolutely. To help readers navigate the big changes happening both globally and locally, the Straits Times is holding a series of webinars in the weeks ahead to put the news into context. Well, here's more from our editor-in-chief, Warren Fernandez.
But after 1 year of change and disruption and restrictions, I think we're all ready to press that reset button and hopefully get back to where we were in November 2019. But we know that's not going to happen. And the best we can do is look forward to 2021 and the way things might be. And to help us think about that, the Straits Times is launching a series of discussions and webinars, which we are calling ST Reset 2021. And today, I'd like to personally invite you to join us for those discussions.
Would the Asia-US relationship be in better hands under a Biden administration than a Trump administration? Just a quick response to that. Heng Chi, would you like to?
Yes.
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 I'll answer yes.
Yes.
Yes. One-line explanation, why yes?
I think there's greater predictability, and I believe the Biden administration would like to move towards stability in the relationship with China, which is the defining relationship in the region. I do not think the Trump administration and President Trump himself really puts too much weight on stability and predictability.
Tommy, you have the last word.
Okay, so my last word is in the form of a message.
Yes.
A message to Biden and the Democrats.
Come to see.
We know that you have to be faithful to yourself. And every American administration, especially a democratic one, must uphold the values of democracy and human rights. But I hope that in your formulation and execution of policy towards Asia, that you allow realism, pragmatism, and wisdom to prevail over ideology. Any attempt by the Biden administration to divide Asia and to form an anti-China coalition will fail and will not be welcome.
Thank you. On those, you want a quick final thought?
Yes, I think I've said this before, and I want to emphasize this, that when I want to tell Joe Biden's team and President Biden that when you return to Asia, Asia is a very different place. You will find a very different Asia. In the last 4 years, Asia has changed. Asia is now with countries, small states, middle powers, and big powers who have a sense of agency. Okay. They feel they can shape their own future. They've taken a lot of initiatives in the absence of American leadership, and they should bear that in mind. So they should come to the region, but they should consult and listen.
Let's take a look at the global headlines. Hong Kong's health chief said today the city had probably entered into a new wave of COVID-19 cases and authorities will ask more students to stay home. Now, the city recorded 26 new cases, 21 of which are locally transmitted. A breakdown of untraceable cases wasn't provided. And this comes as the first flights between Singapore and Hong Kong under the air travel bubble arrangement are slated for this Sunday morning.
South Australia's drastic 6-day lockdown, which was triggered by a lie told by a man to contact tracers, would now be lifted much sooner than initially planned. The state premier said that a man at a pizza bar, which was tied to what was considered a highly contagious outbreak, told contact tracers he had only bought a pizza there when he had actually worked several shifts at the food outlet alongside another worker who tested positive. Authorities assumed the man had caught the virus during a very short exposure, leading them to believe the strain must be highly contagious. The man would not be facing any punishment as there was no penalty for lying to tracers under the current law.
More than 2 weeks on from the US presidential election, the Trump campaign continues to falsely claim that the vote was rigged. On Thursday, Mr. Trump's personal lawyer, Rudy Giuliani, staged a bizarre news conference in which he sweated profusely, causing his hair dye to drip down the side of his face as the images sparked memes on social media. He tried to get his point across about election fraud.
This is real. It is not made up. It is not, there's nobody here that engages in fantasies. I've tried 100 cases. I prosecuted some of the most dangerous criminals in the world. I know crimes. I can smell them. You don't have to smell this one. I can prove it to you 18 different ways.
Meanwhile, President-elect Joe Biden has hit out at President Trump for refusing to concede defeat. Mr. Biden said Mr. Trump would, quote, go down in history as being one of the most irresponsible presidents.
Now, Ollie, I'm curious, what's the longest time you've spent queuing up for something?
45 minutes. I have never queued for a Hello Kitty, an Apple gadget or anything.
So that 45 minutes, what was it for?
A seat at a restaurant, probably.
Ah, okay. Well, you know, over 150 people were seen queuing up at Uniqlo's flagship outlet in Orchard Central this morning, hours before the store opened. These shoppers hoping to snap up Uniqlo's latest clothing collection designed with German fashion designer Jill Sander. One shopper took leave to queue up for the launch, while another said he has, quote, waited for around a decade for the return of this collaboration. Her clothing is usually very expensive. Well, looks like I've got my weekend shopping plans sorted out.
Well, good luck to you, because I think it's going to be quite crowded and the stock may be already sold out, judging by the pictures that we saw earlier.
Yeah. Well, we'll see.
Okay, good luck to you. Well, for more news and videos, visit straitstimes.com and subscribe to our YouTube channel by hitting the red button below.
Once again, I'm Haryanto Diman with Olivia Quay. Have a great weekend and we'll see you on Monday.